Okay, May, I think we're good. We've got people slowly joining, so you may want to give it just a couple minutes.
Danny, it's gonna take just an extra minute. I'm waiting on a authentication code. Facebook's checking me again, so. May, I think you're on mute.
Good morning, folks. We're taking care of a little technical matter here, and we'll be right with you.
Can I get another, I'm sorry, there's feedback. Give me one second. Can I get another big smile from everyone? The last picture didn't save properly.
Quite a happy looking group this morning.
So we may want to just go ahead and get started, and then we'll get it on Facebook whenever we can.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and kick our Connecting Cornelius coffee chat off now. It does appear that we're having a couple little glitches with our Facebook connection, but that's being worked out as we speak. So please be patient with us on that. Happy to be here with you this morning. It's June the 7th, and man, the year is flying by. We're almost halfway through our year. We've got lots of good items to cover with the group this morning. It is budget season for everybody, your town, your county, your state, most elements of government. It's budget time. And so you'll be hearing a lot about that as we progress through the budget process and head to a vote with that. But we want the public informed and certainly have the opportunity to give us feedback for the next meeting or so. So that's one of our items. We'll also be hearing about some of the traffic and transportation issues that many of our citizens have commented to me and our commissioners about. We want you to be as up to date as we are about those matters. A lot of things, a lot of wheels in motion, a lot of balls up in the air as we walk through that, but there is help on the way. You've heard that phrase before. So we want to share that with you. And last but not least, we want to give you an update from our county health director. Gibby Harris has joined us month after month for the last, I don't know how long, year and a half maybe, and has been very gracious in keeping us updated on what's going on with the county. We're unfortunately still in a phase of our pandemic, although it's better. Things are moving in the right direction. So we're glad to have you back with us again, Gibby. And, you know, you're always welcome, but it'd be nice when we don't have any updates to provide our folks. So thank you for, again, being here and telling us what you know to be helpful to our community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn to Gibby Harris and let her kick this off and give us an update from the medical director's position and tell us what's happening. Let me say before we do that, a couple of our county commissioners have joined us that I'm aware of, and that would be our own District 1 Representative Elaine Powell and also Pat Cotham. We will talk to them just a little bit. Speaking of the budget process, commissioners, I don't want any of you to have to drop off on me here before we thank you officially for a great process in working through your budget. I know you've got a couple other issues to deal with, maybe as much as a big meeting today on one item in the budget, but you've been quite good with us here in Cornelius. We asked you to help us with some additional funding with the Kane Center of the Arts. You stepped up, and we're very grateful to you for that. So I definitely wanted to say thank you for that. The two commissioners, Powell and Cotham, that are on the line were certainly leaders in helping get that in place, along with Chairman Dunlap. So thank you all for moving this ahead for us, and we're on our way with the Kane Center. Now, back to Gibby Harris, and we look forward to your update, Gibby.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and to everybody out in Cornelius in the northern part of the county. As the Mayor mentioned, we are seeing improvements in our numbers, significant improvements. We have, if we look at the numbers today, right now we're reporting 113,226 cases since last March. When I say last March, I mean March 2020. And we've had a total of 975 deaths. So this virus has created challenges for our community. We're all very aware of that. And unfortunately, it's still here, but we are seeing really significant improvements as we move forward. Right now, our average cases per day are at 55. That's about the lowest it's been since, I'd say, probably March last year. Hospital averages per day, 76 inpatients. That's way down as well. And our positivity rate is 3%, which is about the lowest it's been since we started tracking that metric. So all of our numbers are moving in the right direction right now, and we want to keep them moving in that right direction. Vaccines are critical to that. As of today, we have 46% of our population partially vaccinated, 41% fully vaccinated. And the point that I want to make here is that the difference between partially and fully vaccinated, that difference has decreased over the last month, which means we have fewer people coming in for that first dose. And that's not what we want to see. We need more people coming in for that first dose, because as I said, we've only got 41% of our community fully vaccinated. So we need to continue to work to get people in for vaccinations. We still see some disparities, but those are improving some. There are lots of efforts trying to make sure that our Hispanic and African American community have good, easy access to vaccine. And in terms of age ranges, 12 to 17-year-olds, 27% of those folks in our community are vaccinated at this point, which is great news. It's not where we want it to be yet, but it's great news. 18 to 24-year-olds, it's at 39%. So those numbers continue to be lower than we want. 65 and up is at least 84% vaccinated, which is just great news, because that's a population that's really susceptible to significant issues if they get infected. And as you may know, the federal goal, the president's goal for vaccines is 70% of our population by July 4th. And we are not moving fast enough to meet that goal, not in North Carolina, not in the country for that matter, but definitely not in North Carolina. So we've still got a lot of work to do to get people as vaccinated as we need. A couple of quick things. Moderna has applied for emergency use authorization for 12 to 17-year-olds, which we think will come through fairly soon. That means that 12 to 17-year-olds will be eligible for both Pfizer and Moderna. And both Pfizer and Moderna have applied for full authorization from the FDA, but that's going to take a while to get through, but that would be good news for that to happen. And lastly, some changes in the governor's order from maybe the last time we spoke. He removed all restrictions on, or mandates on, wearing a mask, and most of the restrictions on capacity in our restaurants, bars, other types of facilities, and increases in the size of mass gatherings. To be clear about masking, what the governor has said, what the federal government said, what CDC has said, and what public health here is saying, those who are fully vaccinated are not required to wear masks. They obviously can if they prefer, if their personal risks or their personal sense of safety makes them more comfortable with a mask, by all means, they should be wearing one. Those who are not fully vaccinated should wear a face covering. And they should wear that at all times when they're in buildings, in public settings, and when they're outside and not able to socially distance or in a large gathering. So we're continuing to encourage people to wear masks in those settings. And as the state says, vax up or mask up. Lastly, there are several settings where masks are still required. And the ones that would impact all of y'all, the entire community actually, any healthcare setting, so hospitals, nursing homes, clinics, those sorts of things will continue to require masks. Any type of public transportation, planes, buses, trains, you should be wearing a mask. Correctional facilities and detention facilities, homeless service providers, but the other one is settings that primarily serve children. So childcare, schools, and our day and night camps right now are under his excuse me, under his order are requiring wearing masks. Now, the other thing to understand is his executive order expires on Friday, and I would not be surprised if we don't see some additional amendments to that order sometime this week. We'll just have to wait and see. So with that, I'll stop there. I want to say we are much better off than we were even a month ago. But what is critical is that people need to continue to practice the prevention measures that we know work, especially if you've not been vaccinated. We still have COVID in our community. So caution is the word right now. It's not as dire as it was, but we still need to be cautious as we move out and about in our community. So thank you, Mayor, and happy to answer any questions there might be.
Thank you very much, Gibby. And I do have one question that was submitted. I think this one's from Miss Constance, and she's asking, could the town request that Mecklenburg Board of Health schedule a free teenager vaccination clinic at Cornelius Town Hall, then actively publicize the date and time and offer an incentive to any healthy Cornelius resident age 12 through 19 who will receive a coupon for a free Carolina cone after receiving the first vaccination, which will require proof of age. I would donate to a fund to help pay for those coupons. So any response to Ms. Constance?
Yeah, we'll be happy to work with the town if you're interested in a clinic. Obviously, that age group is going to be important for us to get vaccinated this summer, especially as we start thinking about school next fall already. As you mentioned, we're already halfway through the year almost. The issue with incentives for teenagers is we have to be careful that there's no indication of coercion. If we're trying to encourage that age group to get vaccinated, we need to be encouraging their parents. Their parents need to be the ones to make the decisions for the most part about their children being vaccinated. And so we're continuing to work with parents. So I mean, if you want to give them an ice cream cone, I have no problem with that. That's, I think that's, not necessarily incentive, but just a thank you for doing what you needed to get done. So I'm happy to work with the town if you're interested in that kind of clinic at some point.
Great, thank you so much. Folks, if you do have a question, you can put those in your chat box. I'm trying to monitor those along with Danny's help, and we'll be glad to do our best to address your questions.
Hey, Mayor.
Yes.
Real quick. Hey, this is Troy. Just a quick reminder, we do have a vaccination clinic through Novant tomorrow, June 8th, from 2 to 6 p.m. Out at James Hoyt Wilhelm Park. So if you go to our website, there's a convenient link to sign up to take your shot.
Great information. Thank you for letting us.
It is Pfizer. So
yeah.
I believe Gibby can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is Pfizer, and that has been approved for 12 to 17-year-olds now.
Great.
I'd be surprised if they don't have other vaccines. And what we're finding is that with all of our clinics, we sort of focus on a population, but we'll take anybody that comes. So I would encourage your community to get out and get vaccinated.
Say the time again, Troy.
It is 2 to 6 p.m. at James Hoyt Wilhelm Park, which is the parking lot behind Cornelius Elementary School.
Perfect.
Again, if folks go to our website, they can sign up there for their time slot, although they are taking walk-ups as well.
That was the point I wanted to make to everybody. Walk-ups are accepted. So if you think about it, passing by, stop in, you will get your vaccination. So very important to continue this effort to get all of our citizens, as many as possible that want to get vaccinated. It's in that crunch period where I certainly hope we hit that 70%. We're not there yet. So we've got to do our parts to continue traveling in that direction. So anybody else on the line here have anything else for Gibby Harris? Looks like we're in a good place, Gibby. Thank you again. When questions are declining, I think that's a good sign. Maybe
it is a good sign. Yes, and I do want to recognize the fact that North Mecklenburg has some of the highest vaccination rates in the county. So I appreciate all the efforts up in the county and the fact that people have come out. So just want to recognize that.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We continue to work hard to grow that even bigger. So thank you so much. Now, I do want to talk just a little bit about the budget process that we've been through and introduce our town manager. We began this budget process. Actually, it's gotten to the point where it's almost a year-round effort to get a good budget in place. It really takes the time to keep a constant analysis going on what's going on with our financial condition in our town. We've had a crazy year, a year of COVID, if you will. So this budget has stretched this past year, the one that we're in now. We got into this particular current budget with no idea of the impact that COVID was going to make on our revenues, our expenses, or anything else. So we had to best guess a lot of things. And at the end of the day, it's worked out quite well. You'll also hear the manager tell you that it was important to your commissioners. And by the way, we do have 4 of our commissioners I've seen on our call this morning: Commissioner Willow, Commissioner Milty, Commissioner Sisson, and Commissioner Ross. They're all on the call this morning, so you can direct questions to them as well. But you know, this has been a interesting year, as we knew that it was not appropriate bouncing back out of COVID. I think it was a pretty much of a consensus of our board that a tax increase was certainly not in the cards. And I don't think you'll see that. That's some good news. And I know our managers worked hard to get us in that direction. So he began this process in earnest, I think, this past January. We've had a number of discussions at our board level about this. We've had one lengthy retreat, which took up, about a half a day or more. And it's maintained lots of conversations, but I think we're in a good place. I am very pleased with this $26 million budget that we've been able to address the needs and request of our citizens, not had to cut back services, and continue to grow those services as we move forward. So there's a lot in this budget. He's going to give you a quick synopsis and a summary. And if you have questions, certainly you can put those in the chat box, or you can call any one of us or email us later for those questions. So Andrew Grant, thank you for all your hard work and efforts, along with our finance department, Julie Noswanger, and all the folks in finance have contributed, and all of our leadership team at our town has certainly contributed as well. We appreciate all the hard work, and look forward to the information Andrew's going to continue to provide as we speak. So Andrew, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Mayor. And just want to give a quick shout out to Gibby. Thank you for you and your team's efforts all through this past, what seems like many years, but maybe about 14 months or so. But thanks to the county, Dina Diorio, and the county board as well for everyone's support. It's been a good team effort. So with that said, I am going to see if technology works here and share my screen. And can everyone see a slide that says manager's recommended budget highlights?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mayor. And Mayor, thank you for the introduction. Want to say, the budget is, as I say every year, the most important policy document that the town board adopts. It sets out the table, if you will, for what we're going to accomplish for the following 12 months. And it's a vital document. Thank you to staff. Thank you in particular to Julie Noswanger, our finance director. And thank you also to the mayor and board. It is a team effort to get to where we are right now. So as the mayor said, I want to give everyone a compressed version of presentation that I provided to the board with some tweaks at our last meeting. And as it says here, these are highlights for the fiscal year 22. This begins on July 1, here in just a little bit, almost 30 days. And it lasts for 12 months, ending on June 30th, 2022. And just to pare down and compress all this within 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to focus on what you see highlighted here, and just to hit the high points, if you will. There is a lot of detail that I'm not sharing with you, and it would take probably a good 3 hours to go through all the detail. But our organizational mission, I think it's always important to note, what makes Cornelius special and different. We do have the Cornelius way. And we are proud of that Cornelius way, both the board, the mayor, and the staff as well. And what does it mean? It means going above and beyond to serve our community with excellence. As the mayor mentioned, we are working through COVID, as many other local governments and state governments and the federal government, for that matter. We had a lot of unknowns and a lot of question marks as to what would happen in the current fiscal year that we're in. I think we budgeted appropriately and conservatively, and we've come through this fiscal year pretty well. For next year, we're still budgeting a little conservatively because there's still some question marks about COVID. There's also some economical question marks when it comes to things like inflation. So what you'll see in our budget is we still have relatively conservative revenue estimates, although we've increased them from the current year that we're in right now, because we have learned a lot over the past 14 months or so. So you will see that there are some reductions in certain areas that are impacted by COVID, and these include property tax, sales tax, our tourism-related tax, in particular, our occupancy tax for lodging, and then also utility franchise tax. In terms of our revenue, one of the things that hasn't changed is our property tax is still the largest component of our town revenue. Over 50% of our revenue comes from the property tax, and that's pretty common when you look at the local government. We are the beneficiaries of a relatively strong economy in North Carolina, and then also in Mecklenburg County as well. The economy locally in general has rebounded relatively well through the pandemic, and we hope that that continues. Sales tax does make up the second largest component of our revenue, and it always has historically at about 15%. Also tied to our budget, separate from the general fund in an electric utility fund, is the electricity's budget. The town, as some people may know, operates an electric utility which provides electric service to approximately 1/3 of the town. We've had some concerns with reliability. We've had some concerns with redundancy and building that into our infrastructure. So we are in the process of implementing a 5-year phase-in of a small and moderate rate increase. This year is the first year of that, and we have approximately a 4.5% rate increase. And again, this is to provide reliability, improved reliability, and redundancy, which we do not have right now in our system. Wanted to point out how we've been growing, and it's a common misconception that we are growing by leaps and bounds currently. Now, if you rewind the clock back to the 90s and early 2000 and even early 2010s, if you will, there was strong growth in terms of the number of population growth. When I started working for the town about 18 years ago, we had a population of around 14,000. Now we are at about 32,000. But that's over the course of almost 2 decades. Our growth has slowed. And when you see population growth slow, sometimes you have an indirect connection to how we grow in terms of our development. And that has a direct correlation to our ad valorem, which is a big component of what determines what our property tax revenues are. And as I mentioned, that growth has been declining. And if you look at assessed value, and if you think about assessed value, the combined net assessed value in the entire town of Cornelius as assessed by the county, we're at about $7 billion. That assessed value for all the properties in Cornelius has been declining. In the periods of time between 2015 and 2020, we have what I would consider relatively good growth in our assessed value, around 2.75. And we started to see some slowdown in that. In the period of time between 2020 and 2021, that dropped about 1.5%. Next year, with the assistance of the county projections, we're anticipating and expecting a growth, a very slow and anemic growth of 1%. And as I mentioned, there is an indirect correlation to population growth. This is actually a chart that was produced with the assistance of CMS as they look at student growth and population growth around the county. As you can see there, Cornelius has the slowest projected growth of all the towns in the county at 0.6%. And you see how that stacks up against some of our neighboring towns. So, however, in spite of our reduced revenues due to COVID and our anemic growth, the manager's recommended budget does focus and address the citizens' priorities identified in a citizen budget survey. And I'm really proud of our town and our citizens. We had, out of 32,000 residents, over 1,000 residents fill out a citizen survey, which stated their priorities for budget funded items. And 1,000 out of 32,000 may not sound like a lot, but that is a huge number. And we were very proud and happy that so many people contributed. And that was the first year we've ever done it. And we'll continue to do this every year. And what it identified for us was where those major priorities are. And what the town board and staff have put together is a budget that reflects those priorities. And I'm going to go over that here in just a minute. We also are addressing in our budget the critical needs in order to continue to provide services to our community. As Mayor Washington mentioned, in spite of all the difficulties, we're not cutting services. We are improving and enhancing services, as a matter of fact. And all this, and we're projecting a net contribution to fund balance, which is a good and, quite frankly, a phenomenal thing that we can do, all without a property tax increase. I mentioned the priorities. Many years ago, we conducted a Navigate Cornelius Comprehensive Master Plan process, and that process involved several hundred citizens, and the number one priority identified then was public safety. And there again, with this citizen survey that we just finished conducting, public safety was identified as the number one priority. And so what are we doing to address that in our budget? And again, I'm giving you a very short snapshot, not all the details, but just to hit some of the highlights. Public safety, one of the major components obviously is fire. Those of you who are paying attention to the budget know that last year or I should say this current year, we budgeted for the hiring of 6 full-time firefighters. It's the first time ever we've had full-time firefighters that are town employees on our staff. And the reasons we did that was because the town hired a third-party public safety consultant, and the consultant identified that we had a staffing issue. We had an unsustainable staffing issue with Cornelius Limley Fire and Rescue, which operates as a 501c3 that we contract with. And for years, they've been great. And they've been awesome, and they continue to be awesome in providing fire and rescue services to the town. However, the labor pool that they pull from is dwindling. Individuals who used to volunteer and work part-time for fire service, unfortunately, it's a thing of the past. It's a generational thing, and it's very difficult to find individuals who have the time and resources to be able to dedicate and volunteer and work part-time for fire services. So this is a long way to say we are going to slowly transition into a career fire department, and it may take several years, but we will get there. So the part of the budget that we have included this year is to fully fund those 6 firefighters. We funded it at half a year last year. We're going to complete that this coming year. Also involved is an increase in the wages for the part-time firefighters that are on the roster with Cornelius Limley Fire and Rescue. There was a market analysis that was conducted, and it identified that our part-time firefighters were underpaid compared to the market. So we're implementing a 2-year phase-in of an increase of their wages, and this includes all the firefighters from drivers up to chief as well. We also have rolling stock replacement that the town does and has done a really good job keeping up with apparatus replacement as engines, fire engines, and ladders and other pieces of equipment age out. We do replace them. One that is on the books to be replaced is replacing fire engine number 5. Police makes up the other major component of public safety. There's as I mentioned with fire, equally so, the law enforcement labor pool and labor market is a very competitive market. And we are seeing a lot of movement with our competitors, other law enforcement agencies that we compete with in order to retain and recruit quality officers. What we have seen is a lot of other agencies make movements in terms of compression, salary adjustments, and then also market adjustments. So we are planning for, proposing in the budget, a 1% market adjustment for our sworn police officers. Also involved in the budget is the creation of a property and evidence clerk. This is to bring on a civilian property evidence clerk, and this is an individual who will handle, just as the title says, all of our property and all of our evidence, which is a monumental task. Currently, that task is being conducted and handled by a couple of our sworn officers, a couple of lieutenants. This will free the lieutenants up to do other duties, more law enforcement type duties, and also reduce our liability and risk. Much like the fire engine, we have rolling stock replacement for police vehicles that we do every year, and that's what you see there next. Transportation is a close number 2 in terms of priority, and that's not a surprise. And at the end of my presentation, staff will talk to all of you about transportation matters as well. So what we have in the budget for next year, those of you who've been in town at least for a few years will recall in 2018, $24 million worth of road bonds were approved by the voters by a very large margin, and we're starting to spend some of that. This coming fiscal year, we will sell 7 million of those $24 million bonds to put towards road projects that we are partnering with NCDOT. 2 that are coming out of the chute initially are the 21 roundabouts, which you'll hear about later, and then also the roundabout that's to be constructed up near Davidson and the YMCA at the intersections, or I should say intersection of 115 Davidson Street and also Pot Street. All of those are projects that are scheduled to begin in 2022. There you see in blue, we do have on the books for many years in the future, a total of $47 million worth of road bonded projects, and which is a lot for a small town our size. So we'll have the benefit of all these road projects. However, in our partnership with NCDOT, in order to accelerate the projects and bring them here sooner than later, we do have to share the cost, or share a portion of the cost, which is actually a relatively small amount. We have about a 7% cost share in terms of all the projects. And as Mayor Washington likes to ask me and Wayne all the time, we're at about $400 million worth of road projects from NCDOT that are coming. So a relatively small share that we have compared to the NCDOT projects. We also have a couple of town managed projects, not NCDOT related. Jim Street Extension, we are nearing the conclusion of acquiring right-of-way for that project. This is on the east side of town. We anticipate construction to occur over 2021 and 2022. And if you're a individual who lives on the east side or has a student at Huff High or Bailey Middle, you probably have seen the intersection project that's going on right now at Bailey and 115. Will improve that intersection here, and project is slated to be complete before school begins again. This is just a map showing you all the projects that we have active in town. And you'll notice this is Cornelius, and there's a lot of color on here. Everywhere you see color, we have an active road project. And as I mentioned, for a town our size, we have a lot of road projects, which again is a good thing because we want to see those improvements. Everywhere you see blue, that means these projects are active. However, they're not as active as some of our other projects. And what I mean by that is if you look at the colors that are green, these are projects that are completed. In green, you see Nanny Potts Lane and then also Hickory Street Extension. In yellow, you see a couple of projects that I just mentioned, the Bailey 115 intersection, and then also Jim Street Extension, which are very active, either active construction or right-of-way is being acquired. As the years tick by, we'll update this map and a lot of the colors will change, and we want to eventually see all these colors turn green. Not surprising, a citizen priority number 3 is Parks and Recreation, and this is traditional Parks and Rec. We're making an investment in our existing facilities. We have many parks, and as Park Director Troy Fitzsimmons will say, we have loved our parks to death, which is a good thing. So we have to maintain them. We are fully funding park maintenance and then also funding some park improvements as well. We also have a greenway that we will work on next year, and this is out near Huff High, the Plum Creek Greenway Phase 2. And we also have a relatively small but important sidewalk project on 115, and this will connect the Caldwell Station neighborhood, which has been on a pedestrian island, if you will, ever since it's been constructed, with a sidewalk to connect it into the North Regional Rec Center and also the Caldwell Station Creek Greenway. We also have a project to start the design of the Juton Road Extension rebuild, and this rebuild will bring along with it some bike lanes and multi-use paths, a very important piece of our Emerald necklace. Public Works came in at number 4. We have a water quality project, a major water quality project that we're working on called the Willow Pond Stream Restoration, and also the Upper McDowell Creek tributary stream restoration. These are tributaries that we are focusing on in terms of water quality, as these tributaries go straight into Mountain Island Lake, which is where 90% of the drinking water comes from for Mecklenburg County. Also on the books, we have an old Canal Street and South Street Bridge repair project. Economic development came in at number 5. We have a growing and very busy and active town center. If you rewind the clock 10 years ago, we were nowhere near this active. Now we have a lot of activity downtown, and we anticipate even more. So we're making an investment in some parking in the downtown area. We also have, and we're very proud of our Kane Center project that's coming into town, right across the street from Town Hall. The construction has begun. The town is participating in that, in particular with a $4 million redevelopment bond to put towards that project. So we will sell those bonds this coming fiscal year. Critical needs, not necessarily tied to one of the priorities, but a critical need per se is a comprehensive housing plan, which is a affordable / workforce housing plan. We've had some needs identified by a mayoral citizen committee, and also validated by some data gathering as well, that we do have a need for some more affordable and workforce housing in town. Approximately 80% of the people who work in Cornelius do not live in Cornelius, and I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out that it's in large part because of the high cost of living in town. So we were going to work on a plan that will help us determine how we create more affordable and workforce housing around all of town. We do have some IT needs. IT is one of those things that if you ignore it, it will bite you in the end. So we've made a lot of efforts to improve our cybersecurity. And one of the things that we have here is the replacement of an old firewall and also the installation of a new firewall for our backup system. One of the things that we're also focusing on and have been for the past few years is our personnel, and that's retention and recruitment of personnel, in particular our law enforcement. Law enforcement sworn officers make up over 50% of our staff, And so it's important to stay competitive for them and also all of our other personnel. And as I mentioned, law enforcement labor market is very competitive. We did conduct a salary study, which provides some recommendations for market increase and also compression increases. We do have a merit, which we feel is competitive with our other towns that we do compete with for staffing. And then I mentioned the 1% market adjustment for sworn officers. In summary, the recommended tax rate is to remain the same at 22.2 cents. As the mayor mentioned, our budget is at 26 million. And even though we are selling approximately $11 million in bonds next year, we are making a net contribution to fund balance of 86,000. Next steps for us, we do have a public hearing tonight, which we're continuing, and that's at the town board meeting at 5 p.m. The public hearing will likely be continued to our last meeting in June, on June 21st, and then the budget will likely be adopted on June 21st. And with that, Mayor, I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions. And seeing how we're running a little late on time, if you wanted to roll into the transportation presentation, feel free to do that as well. Thank you.
I do want to cover this very quick question that was submitted by Annette a while ago, but I think it's a good question, and it states, what percentage of our revenues come from real estate taxes, sales taxes, business taxes, internet sales taxes that the town receives? I don't know if you can break it down in all those categories, but give us a general answer for Annette, please.
Yep, absolutely. So property tax, which makes up that real estate tax, that's 54%, and that's real estate, that's vehicles as well. About 15% is our sales tax, which is all those categories that Annette mentions. Anytime anything is purchased in the county, and then also purchased by internet as well, we receive that. That's about 15%.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any other questions, so I am going to roll right into the next item on our agenda for this morning, and that is to talk about transportation and traffic. I want to assure our citizens that is a top priority for me and for our board and for our staff. We hear you. We know that we're out there fighting. We want you to know that we're out there fighting for you as you sit in this traffic, because guess what? I sit in it too, as do every one of these commissioners. We are very aware that we need to get this fixed, and there are massive efforts going forward that I think you need to be aware of, and it is your responsibility as a citizen to let us know what your priorities are and what you're thinking about the transportation, and help us solve these problems. But we are working on it, and I think once you get this update, it will make a difference as to I guess maybe transmitting the information of how hard we're working. We're very fortunate. I think back over the years, I've served on the CRTPO, but now we're very fortunate to have Commissioner Miltick as chairman of the CRTPO. And so he's in the middle of helping us with the funding side and the planning side and everything else. So we've got the deck stacked in a really good direction right now, I think, to get this moving and get it fixed. So I'm going to turn to our staff and ask them for an update. And I'm going to start out with Deputy Manager Wayne Herron. So Wayne, how about kicking us off? And then we will turn to Assistant Manager Tyler Beardsley to talk about a lot more of the local projects that are going on as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor. As I get started here, let's make sure everybody can see. Does everybody see Connecting Cornelius there?
Yes, we got you.
Good. So I'm going to show some of the same slides that our manager had showed you in his budget, and I'll run through those pretty quick. But I want to talk mainly about the transportation projects that we partner with NCDOT. I would say 90 to 95% of our transportation projects are covered by NCDOT because they own and maintain those facilities. What Tyler's going to talk to you about in a moment are how we can fill a few gaps in there with town projects and town roads. Andrew showed you this slide in his budget process, and I want to reiterate what he said. This is 13 projects. I've been doing this in North Carolina local government for 33 years, and I can tell you most jurisdictions don't get 13 projects over 30 years. That's just phenomenal that we have this many slated over the next 5 to 7 years. I tell people if we can ever get all of these projects, it will change the way Cornelius functions. It will change our capacity. It will change the way traffic operates in Cornelius. But I get it from a citizen standpoint. Like a lot of things in life, it's hard to believe that until you actually see it. So very quickly, a few comments. And I think our Mayor Pro Tem, Dennis Billadu, said it best. The way we get citizens buy-in on this is we need to get these NCDOT projects to construct these transportation projects as quickly as possible. If people see orange barrels, they will start to believe. They will start to believe that something is happening and we're on our way. But there are so many things that go into how a road is built. And I will take a moment for an advertisement here. On the planning board agenda for next Monday night, Dr. Miltic and I will be doing a presentation, Transportation 101. How do you get from wanting a project to getting it funded to having it built? And that's often a 7 to 15-year process. And there's a lot of staff time involved to stay on top of it, a lot of elected official time to continue to lobby and to keep those projects funded and to keep them in the ranking and the priority. A couple of things I want to say. Cornelius congestion issues are not created due to town development policies or practices. I'm also going to show you that same graph the manager showed you, that our development, we're looking, because of our land use plan, we're the slowest growing municipality in Mecklenburg County. But you'll see that our neighbors are growing at a much more rapid pace. But unfortunately, we share traffic. A lot of traffic that comes through Cornelius is passing through. It's going from Lincoln County to Iredell County, Mecklenburg, down in Charlotte, up to Mooresville, up to Iredell. And because they're state roads, we're required to carry that traffic. But we're not whining and complaining, because all jurisdictions have to do that. We all have to carry traffic that goes from one destination to another. It's not because of lack of capacity. Our roads have capacity. You hear us talk about this during development, that a road might have a capacity of 10,000 and it's only at 2,000. But we feel the pain at peak times, and we feel the pain when we're at times when we're all trying to get out and go to dinner, or we're all trying to go to church, or we're all trying to go to soccer practice. We all feel that pain together at those peak times. So our problems are a direct result of intersections and thoroughfares that operate severely low levels of service. And we need to have network improvements that will move us to success. I mentioned the commissioners and the staff working hard. We also have a transportation advisory board. I noticed Lou Raymond's on here today. Lou is our chair of our transportation advisory board. They work extremely hard to keep us moving ahead and moving forward. Now, Andrew put some numbers out there. I'm not going to talk about every single one of the transportation projects that were on that map, but the ones that I am focusing on today are a total cost to NCDOT of $125,872,515. That's only what I'm sharing with you today. In Cornelius, that's significant. The town, it does pay a portion to keep those projects on the list. I always tell a story. I've been in here 33 years now. Back when I started, we didn't have the STI ranking methodology that the state has today. The state is really trying to move to where projects are funded based on their merit, how much congestion, what's the cost benefit. I tell the story, when I started in Boone 30-some years ago, the mayor and I took a ham down to the auditorium and gave it to the DOT board member, asking for him to put our project in there. So that's the way it used to work in the olden days. We've come a long way. Now you don't have to carry hams and bring presents and beg. You basically score, and then you continue to fight to keep your project ranked. What I'm showing you today, 17.5% of those project costs are being covered by the town in the form of matches and betterments that our citizens desire. This is the same chart the manager showed you. This is critical. You'll see on here that Cornelius, based on our land use plan, we're the slowest growing municipality in Mecklenburg County. And of course, this was done for us by CMS. But you'll see Huntersville at 2.6 and Davidson at 2.1. So a lot of folks say, well, why don't we just shut down growth? Well, that's not going to stop our transportation issues from being there. If our neighbors continue to grow and continue to do good things for their tax base and for their citizens, it really just puts us behind the 8 ball if we don't also look at well-managed, intelligent growth in the right place at the right time that's good for our quality of life. So let me talk very quickly about some projects. Torrance Chapel at West Catawba. The reason this is so important, this is a bookend. We call it, it's one end of the diverging diamond. The diverging diamond is where all traffic flows in Cornelius and everything comes through there. If we can get either end of the diverging diamond to work properly, that will create a lot of positive flow for traffic. One thing I'll say is I was standing out with some individuals monitoring traffic, as was Tyler, and doing it for some other reasons. But we noticed that in the course of 2 hours, there were 3 events that acted like an accordion. It just stopped traffic. One was a truck pulled too far out in the intersection and blocked 2 lanes of traffic. The accordion effect was that 2 cycles, the traffic couldn't move. And then, and Chief Barbie, I know you guys have to respond to emergencies, but a fire truck had to come through. Everybody had to move over. That affected another 2 cycles of the signal of getting everything back. So it's amazing how just small events can have an accordion effect. And it took almost 2.5 hours for everything to get back to normal and the signal progressions to move people through. So I say that because we are such a small area that Cornelius is in. Sometimes we don't have the ability just to build a big road to fix it all. We can have a network, we can have it working the best way possible, but if one thing messes it up, it's an accordion effect. And so we urge everyone, don't block intersections, don't block lanes, move over for fire vehicles, and then keep moving to the best of your ability as the system gets back. So Torrance Chapel, we have 2 roundabouts proposed on the west side of the diverging diamond, one at the post office, one in front of Lake Norman Jeep Dodge Chrysler. There will be some changes in the signal configuration over a period of time that will improve that. There's a 3rd phase to this, which will have a roundabout at Knox. There will be significant improvements to Knox Road, changes to the intersection at 1 Norman. Significant amount of this is being paid for. This is where Chick-fil-A, the bank, and Aldi is located. They are paying for a significant portion of that as part of this project. On the east side of the diverging diamond, we also need to have traffic moving around where QT, Cashins, the credit union. So we have 2 more roundabouts and signal changes that will happen there to move traffic more freely and to get things moving in a quicker fashion. Also coming up here, and I'll say that those 2 projects I just showed you, they're in right-of-way currently, scheduled for construction starting next year. So we're hoping you see those orange barrels at the end of this year. We'll consider that progress to get those barrels out there and get those projects going. Also, the 115 Potts roundabout, significant congestion, people getting to the YMCA, getting to Davidson. Have another big roundabout proposed at Davidson Street, 115. We think this will improve congestion. Also currently in right-of-way, acquiring land, set to start construction next year. This will be a quick one for construction. North Cross Drive extension. This will be a major north-south connector between Huntersville here at 73 and Cornelius up at Westmoreland. I'm trying to get a better drawing from DOT. Originally, there was a roundabout within the park, but it's been moved out to Westmoreland. We think that will improve traffic flow around the newly approved Alexander Farm development. The reason that this one takes a little bit longer to construct, you'll see it crosses the McDowell Creek and McDowell Creek Greenway. That adds a little bit of time to put a bridge and a culvert over that, but certainly this will be a great north-south connector. Bailey Road extension, trying to improve that curve on Bailey Road if you're familiar with that. Punch that out to 21. This will be a full movement intersection that we've learned here recently from DOT. Even though 21 is proposed to be more of a super street, the reason this will be full movement is because of Atrium and the new hospital facility going across the street. This Bailey Road extension is estimated for construction in 2023. Also, to help in our town center, Hickory Street will get a new signal. It's been approved. It's currently under design. We anticipate that being constructed in 2023, which will significantly help our town center and some of the projects we're talking about there. West Catawba Phase 2, it's ways out, but this is the one everybody wants to know about. DOT has released it for right-of-way. They are working on right-of-way now. It just takes a while because it's such a big project. Right-of-way will be 2021 to 2025. We anticipate this one being released for construction. We anticipate that in 2025. So, Mayor, with that, I'll stop, and I know Tyler's teed up on the town projects.
Yes, let me cover a question here that popped up, Wayne. People are routinely, this comes from Annette, people are routinely blocking the intersection at Catawba and 21 and also at times on the other side of the bridge. Could police be more active in keeping those intersections clear so the flow could happen better?
Mayor, I know the chief is on here, but I will say our police are very active. They do know that's an issue. We all know it's an issue. And yes, the police do watch out for that. They do a great job. Chief, I'll see if you want to say anything else in addition to that.
Yes, Wayne, that is one of our on the to-do list to monitor those intersections during times of heavy traffic, because it does, as you say, impede the flow of traffic, and it causes that accordion effect. Once that intersection is blocked, it takes several cycles to clear up, and we're working to address that as it comes up.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So is there anything you could add, or maybe Tyler's going to talk about the adaptive traffic
Yes,
control
Tyler will
system?
cover that.
Okay, that's great, because I do want to talk about that. We hear a lot of feedback on the lights aren't synced. So are we ready to move to Tyler?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Tyler.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Can everyone see the adaptive signal slide?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We got it.
Thank you. So I'll start off with talking about the traffic signals along the West Catawba corridor. We know there have been issues recently that we're trying to work through. So I just want to touch on that corridor and what we've done to try to resolve some of those issues and what we're continuing to try to do to resolve some of those issues. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of our local projects. So in February 2019, the town installed an adaptive signal technology system. It wasn't just the town, it was a partnership with DOT and Rhythm Engineering, which is the third-party system engineering company that actually operates the system and monitors traffic. The adaptive signal system uses cameras. You may have seen them installed on all the mast arms to just see what's going on. Before, there were loops in the road that measure what traffic is there, but this actually looks at traffic and can adapt as more volume is coming from each approach of an intersection. So it worked well for a year and a half or so, and it's gone downhill a little bit. I'll be the first to admit that it has not operated correctly like we wanted it to in some time. So this includes 21 and the 7 signals all the way to Jeton Road. So what we discovered was there was a pedestrian button stuck at Torrance Chapel. So this was calling for a pedestrian to cross every time that the traffic signal changed, which causes the light to just cycle slower. So it has to allow for time for a pedestrian to cross. So that would cycle slower, which would make it not communicate as well and work as properly with the other signals in the area. Rhythm also discovered that there was a communication issue that is intermittent, but we can tell when it goes out. And this causes the signals to essentially operate independently instead of communicating with each other. This really clogs things up. you definitely know when the communications are down. Everything gets clogged up. None of the signals are working together, and it's just a mess out there. So DOT installed an additional modem that will help with communication. We're hopeful this will resolve some issues. There are a few other issues that we're working with DOT and Rhythm on to try to improve that communication. So DOT installed that on May 28th, but this past Friday, it was not good either. So hopefully we can resolve these issues quickly. These other few little issues that are causing some communication errors. So that has been the main issue, and we're hopefully getting that resolved very soon. The other thing is capacity. As Wayne mentioned, once one thing kind of triggers a blockage or something to go get out of sync, then it just blocks everything up for a long time, and it's hard to get it to come back to normal. Which is why we're working on those two projects at 21 and Torrance Chapel that Wayne mentioned. So hopefully
Tyler,
we'll get.
Let's throw in a question here, which is related, that comes
Okay.
from Norm here. So wouldn't a yield right of way sign on the exit from 77 going west at Catawba help? Could that help?
Instead of a no turn on red, I think is what would be the.
Well, you're coming off the interstate and you're going west. That's what he's asking.
Yeah. So right now there's currently a no turn on red, and that because of the way that the traffic comes around the median wall, the pedestrian wall in the center of the DDI, the sight triangles aren't that great. So there's a lot of blockage from the vehicles coming across. So that is why DOT put up those no right turn signals or no right turn signs. We can talk with DOT again about that and see if that's an option. We also talked when it was first installed about allowing left turns on red, which is currently not allowed in the state. It's against the law in the state to do a left turn on red, but as we know, the DDI is a little different traffic pattern. So you're not actually crossing lanes when you get off. So we can talk about that with some of our representatives and see if that's an option as well. But yeah, we can discuss that. Those are a good comment.
Yeah, he adds, the problem is when the exit light is green and there is traffic on Catawba. So just to clarify it there, but it would be great to have them look into it and see if that is workable in any way, just to keep it flowing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Mike. Mike, do you have something?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say the sight distance turning right, traffic comes around that curve so fast, it would not be safe. I agree. It would be nice to be able to turn left on red, but it would have to take a change in the state law. I have found out that since our DDI was built, NC and DOT has come out with improved signage. I'm going to see, especially when we do the roundabout projects, if we can include better signage, especially for out of towners. That design is so unusual. It's very confusing for people not familiar with it. Also, we can also see if we can get installed do not block intersection signs, because that currently is an issue. Like as Wayne said, somebody blocking the intersection follows it all up for hours. Thank you.
And I believe our police are ticketing for that now. Is that true, Chief?
We've been addressing it either through warnings, verbal warnings, written warnings, or state citations.
Yes. So you can get a ticket, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you for the question. So then just some of our road projects on the east side that can take some traffic off of Catawba. That's one of the sticking points is Catawba is pretty much our only east-west corridor. And so everything kind of runs through Highway 21, the DDI, Torrance Chapel, all the traffic just funnels right to that one area. So you've seen some of these projects before. They've all been touched on, but Hickory Street over on the right side of the map, that was completed in 2017. That gives another outlet for the Antiquity Shopping Center and neighborhood. So they don't have to use Catawba Avenue. The star is the Hickory Street intersection improvements that Wayne discussed. So that'll hopefully be in construction in a couple of years. The Jim Street extension, it goes behind the mill, the Oak Street Mill. That'll connect from School Street over to Oak Street. And this is kind of the last corridor, the last stretch to have a circuitous route from Highway 21 to 115. But once that's complete, drivers will be able to get from 115 to 21 without getting on Catawba, which they currently cannot do. So that, as Andrew mentioned, the right-of-way is underway now. We're hoping to have that out to bid later this summer, and then construction starting later this fall. It'll probably take a year or so to construct that. And then the last one on the left side is Nanny Potts Lane. That one was completed last summer, and it connects School Street over to, or excuse me, Smith Circle over to Highway 21. So once those 4 projects are done, there will be another route that drivers can use besides Catawba that'll hopefully help with traffic and relieve some of the congestion on Catawba. That's all I had, Mayor.
Okay, great presentation, folks. This transportation issue continues to be very top on our list with me and our board and our staff, as I said earlier. Please understand we're working on it hard. If you have ideas, feel free to contact us. We will get them in the right direction, or if you have questions after this presentation today, you can email those questions to townofcornelius@cornelius.org, and we will get them to the right resources to get you answers back. So, it takes a while to talk about this transportation issue, and we want to make sure we're addressing all the concerns. You will likely hear about it in all of these Connecting Cornelius sessions as we go forward on a monthly basis. But in the between times, you're welcome to bring those up to our attention. I get a lot of emails on it, as do our commissioners and as do our staff. We're happy to address those the best we can. If you're observing a malfunction of our adaptive control system or whatever, it's okay to dial 911 and let us know. We don't always know. So I tell folks it's okay to dial 911 and notify our folks that there's a problem, and they will be right there to check it out. So with that, I think we are at our maximum time commitment for today. Please communicate with us. I'll reiterate again what Wayne said. There will be a Transportation 101 session with our planning board. Wayne, give me the date of that again. I think it's next Monday. Is that correct?
That'll be next Monday at 6:30, and the planning board is also broadcast on Facebook Live, so feel free to tune in. And hopefully we'll have some time to go more in depth on how we get our road projects from point A to point Z.
That's perfect. I invite everybody to do that and be part of it, and help us become part of the solution to this challenge that we're having right now. So we'll get through it. And I will tell you one more thing. Once this construction begins, look out. It's going to take some patience on behalf of our entire population in Cornelius and throughout North Mecklenburg, because it isn't just our project starting, it's projects in Huntersville and Davidson and Mooresville and on and on. There's a lot of money that is long overdue for our community. So be patient as the road work begins and things are headed toward hopefully a solution to all this. So that's all I have today. Thank you very much for your attendance and your feedback. And town board meeting starts at 5 o'clock tonight. And I hope you'll tune in. Have a good day, everybody. Have a great Monday, and we will see you next month. Thanks a lot.